What's going on, everybody? Welcome to hopefully the first of many videos, unless I get bored, sick, or tired, or I just perish, I suppose, on Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. So that's coming out on the 7th, 3 days from now. I wanted to start by just talking about some stuff that's going to happen when the game comes out and stuff that you want to do to maximize your uh, resources, I suppose, because this game, I've talked about it before if you follow me on Twitter at all. This game has a horrendous pity. It's terrible. It's like 25 multi-summons. It's 250 summons. So a single summon gets you 1 point, and a multi-summon gets you 10 points, and you need 250 summons to get a character. Guaranteed. So like when you pity that character, meaning you just trade those points in for that character. So it's really, really important to maximize your resources where they need to go. Now, the reason that I still think that this game is reasonably what I would call free-to-play friendly, I suppose, is because the content in the game can mostly be handled by like one team. You really only need one team that's good to do most things. You want some other characters here and there that are going to be like your, utility, just kind of some extra functionality, I guess, but they're also pretty common characters. Things like the R rarity, so like the 3-star version of Inumaki is pretty good. The free main character that you get, 3-star version of him, has some uses to him. So they're all also decent. So first we're going to talk about cubes. So cubes are your summon currency. You get 3,000 of them to equate to one multi-summon. 300 of them equates to one single summon. So you're going to need to stockpile quite a bit of those. So right here you see you got your pre-registration reward event. And you go ahead and pre-register and you do all the extra stuff here. You can get up to 36 characters, so there are 36 summons. It's not always characters. Sometimes you also get these equips that are called memories. We'll talk about those a little bit. But you also get 2 SSR characters and an SSR recollection bit. So in the Japanese version of the game, those are called memories. I don't know why they went with recollection bits. I think memories sounds a lot better. But anyway, when you complete the pre-reg, this is what you get. You get all of your cubes. You get the SSR character from the early gacha. You get the SSR recollection bit. Recollection bits are, if you play, I don't know what a good anime game that has these kind of examples are, but for something like Honkai Star Rail, it would be like a light cone. It would be similar to that. It's a thing that you equip that gives you some additional abilities, but you actually use it. So it's like giving yourself another thing that you can do on your turn that will buff your stats or have some sort of impact. Maybe it'll recover your Jujutsu meter, so you have more meter to spend. Maybe it will buff your stats. Maybe it will buff your allies' stats. It's all that different kind of stuff. Because we want to hang on to these cubes, no matter what, we really don't want to spend these very much. That's where these tickets come in. So you get these SSR character guaranteed gacha tickets that are redrawable tickets. They are not all redrawable tickets. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Generally, when you get a ticket, at least as far as I'm aware, because I'm not actively playing the Japanese version, I stopped a little bit around the 1-year anniversary. Not because the game was bad, but just because you have to use a VPN to play on the Japanese version of the game, and it sucked. And so it was really slow and laggy, and it was miserable. So eventually I got tired of it. But so some tickets are redrawable, and what that means is you can just redo the ticket over and over again as many times as you want until you get the character that you want. Those are pretty rare. You don't get them very often. Other SSR like guaranteed tickets will just give you one of the release characters. Most of the release characters are pretty mediocre. There are a couple that are really good, several that are not very good. So for your redrawable gacha ticket, we'll talk about who you're going to focus on with that later on. There are 2 characters from the reroll pool that you're going to want. And since we're getting those 2 redrawable tickets, those are the 2 you're going to get, basically. You are getting these 2. Unless you don't care about like meta and you just want to play for fun, maybe you want like Yuji and Todo, totally fine. You can do that if you want to. But if you care about meta and about maximizing your value, we're going to be getting the same 2 characters, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But these are your summon currency. We're going to be clinging hard to those. You've got your SSR characters. Now, in this game, you don't have to be an SSR character to necessarily be good. Most of the good characters are, but there's a couple that are not, and we'll talk about them a little bit later too. And then you have your SSR recollection bits. These are just like characters. They range anywhere from quite bad to amazing. So, talking about who we're going to roll for with this redrawable ticket. This is the pool right here. These are the characters that you can get from that ticket. You can get anybody from the launch pool in the ticket, okay? So the main one that we're going to get here is Gojo. He is the must-have character. He is by far the best character that's going to be available at launch, and he's still top tier in the Japanese version to this day. Incredibly overpowered character. We'll talk a little bit about why in another video. I don't really want to break down individual characters in this too much. Just for time purposes. But for this ticket, if you care about meta, Gojo is your guy. You're going to get him immediately, no questions asked. The minute you see him, you keep him. The second person you're going to get, because we are going to get more than one of these, is this Nobara. Nobara is also quite good. Nobara is going to be basically your second DPS. The way that teams work is you kind of build them with like 2 characters that do support and then 2 that do DPS, usually. Nobara is going to be kind of your duo DPS with Gojo for right now, because she is the second best DPS that's in the game at this point. And they're both Jujutsu-based DPS. So there's 2 types of attacks in this game. There's physical attacks, and then there's Jujutsu attacks. So both Nobara and Gojo use Jujutsu for their primary heavy-hitting damage. So that way, any support that you use that buffs Jujutsu will work on both of them, compared to someone like Yuji over here who uses melee attacks, like physical attacks more. So a Jujutsu support, it would not do as much for him. Now there's some other combinations you can get if you feel like being cheeky. Like if you want to do Yuji Todo, it's not as good, but it's a silly little combo that works and it's fun and it's Yuji and Todo, and that's just a thing that you can do if you want to do that. If I were to rank these characters in order of how good they are, it's Gojo, far above the rest, like infinitely far above the rest. If Gojo were S tier, the rest would be like B or below. Then you have Nobara, who's next. After that, you have Yuji. Yuji is not very good in my opinion, but as far as launch characters go, he's decent. And then after Yuji, it kind of doesn't matter. I think it would probably be Todo after Yuji, just because he is like a decent little mix between damage and support. Maki is probably the worst one. Nanami is okay. Basically, if you're not Gojo, Nobara, or Yuji, you're probably pretty bad. Gojo being by far the best one, Nobara being very solid, Yuji being mediocre but serviceable for a launch character. And then there's some stuff that's being changed here in the global version just to keep an eye on. So it's like optimization differences, stuff that were not in the Japanese version. Friend invitations, so you can share like a friend code and add friends. I don't remember that not being a thing in the Japanese version, but apparently it wasn't in the same way. I feel like I had friends in the Japanese version, but maybe I was wrong. There's going to be some sort of Phantom Parade, like a battle pass. I guess Western gacha gamers really like battle passes. So there will be a battle pass that you can get. Probably will be a decent, as with any battle pass in a gacha game, it's probably a pretty good investment to reward ratio when it comes to money, but it will definitely be paid. And then there is a step up gacha where you can summon with, what is that, 5,000, 6,500, 6,600 paid currency to get a SSR guaranteed redraw ticket. Now, that is probably a lot. I don't know what the exact prices are going to be, what like the, conversion is going to be. That's probably going to be a decent amount of money, at least 50 bucks or more. But it will get you another SSR guaranteed ticket. Now, these tickets are very uncommon. You're not going to get a bunch of them. And duplicates of characters are actually pretty decent to get. I mean, you don't want a ton. You don't want to like super go crazy with all these extra characters and try to get a bunch of copies. But getting at least one copy of a character is usually a pretty good thing. So if you have the option, like if you are gonna spend money on the game, I'm not encouraging you to do so. In fact, I encourage you not to do so because of how awful the pity is. Um, but if you're going to anyway, like, I mean, whales are going to whale or dolphins are going to dolphin. And if you want to invest in something that's guaranteed as opposed to just swinging for the fences, this is not bad to get a duplicate for your Gojo, right? That way your Gojo is stacked for good. You don't ever really need to worry about it. But there are ways to get duplicates for the base characters by trading things in. So as you sell things or like trade them in, you can trade in characters and you can trade in memories. So if you trade in those characters, you get a currency that you can then spend on duplicates of the launch characters. It will take a very long time. You're going to pull a lot before you ever get there, but it is an option, you know, so there is a free way to do the stuff that you're trying to do. So you don't have to necessarily fear that you'll miss out on this easy dupe forever if you don't do that. I mean, it's a free option that's always there. Apparently you get 10 cubes a day. I don't know why they're advertising this like it's a brand new awesome feature. It's just the exact same thing as a login reward. So, you know, neat, I guess. I think every game ever has had a login reward in it, so I don't know why they're pretending that's a big deal, but sure, cool. Now, I want to look at each of the units that are going to be in the game at launch real quick. Now, this is the Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade wiki. So this is all based on the Japanese version. That's why you're seeing characters that are not in the global. It's like Toji right here. I just want to look at each of the characters that are going to be in the global versions on release so you know what you're looking at. So release is going to have Maki. It's going to have Toto. Hanami is a shop unit, so he's like a free-to-play unit. To my memory, they're all pretty mediocre. All the ones that you can like buy for free with currency. Like in-game currency that's not the summon currency. They're all pretty mediocre, but he will technically be there pretty early on. And then, so then there's Yuta. Now, if this game follows the release schedule of the Japanese version, which it may not, but if it does, Yuta will come out pretty soon after launch. Because what happened with the Japanese version is the game came out, and then Jujutsu Kaisen 0 came out, and they're like, well, let's put Yuta out right away, right? So they put out Yuta. He came out, and he's really, really good. So if Yuta comes out early, so if he comes out around the same time he came out in the Japanese version, which again, he may not, if he does, he's going to replace Nobara in most people's teams. You're going to get Yuta pretty quick. Like, you're going to get him for sure. He's one of the characters you don't want to miss out on. There's very few can't miss characters if you want to maximize your investment, at least for the first year, to just, you know, kind of smoke everything and not have to worry about it. Yuta is one of those. So these two will for sure be there at launch. This one is a shop unit that will pop in there pretty soon. And then Yuta will appear not long after, assuming that the game follows the Japanese release schedule. If it doesn't, God only knows when Yuta will come out. For blue units, Gojo and Megami are going to be launch units. Gojo, like we talked about, is the unavoidable, can't skip, you got to have this guy unit. Megami is pretty mediocre, pretty bad. Not someone that I would be excited to get or keep, but if you really like Megami, fine. A much better Megami comes out in a few months from when this game releases, so if you're a Megami fan, I would probably hold out for that one, but he does exist. Jogo, again, is a shop unit, available just like Hanami is, just around as bad as he is, to my memory, but he's there. And then Geto is a similar case to Yuta, where he comes out with Jujutsu Kaisen 0. So if Jujutsu Kaisen 0 comes out where it came out in the Japanese version, he'll be out pretty reasonably afterward. If it doesn't, God only knows. He could come out anytime. For green units, you have Yuji, Nanami, and Panda. These are all release units. Yuji is a physical DPS. Nanami is also kind of a physical DPS. Panda is a tank. Panda is also the only tank, really. But if you have the better teams in the game, you really don't need a tank. 99.9% of the time, you kind of just smoke everything. So tanking is not a big deal. There's also memories that draw aggro. So you can use a memory that will pull aggro onto you, or whatever character that uses it, right? And if that character uses the memory that pulls aggro, they're the only target that will be hit the next turn. So there is some tricks that people were doing early on in the game where you would put that memory onto Gojo, and Gojo has Limitless, so Gojo cannot take damage unless the enemy uses a domain expansion, which almost no enemies in the game, especially at release, have a domain expansion. I think it's only the Jogo battle that has one. Um, so basically, Gojo becomes a tank for a turn, and he becomes completely... I mean, he's immune to damage because of Limitless, so basically just skips the enemy's turn because they can't hit him. So really, you don't need a tank. Gojo can be your tank if you desperately need one or want one. And then yellow is Nobara and Inumaki. I actually don't remember if, what's his face here? Little dude, little man, school shooter. If he is in the... Junpei, that's his name. If Junpei is in the launch banner, I don't think he is. But he's not good anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you have Inumaki and Nobara. Nobara, again, quite good. Very serviceable for a long time. If you get Yuta, you are going to drop her. If you don't care about Yuta, you could keep her for a while. I mean, it sounds like I'm downplaying her because I'm saying that she gets quickly replaced by Yuta, but that's just circumstances of Yuta being better. She is quite good for a very long time. So, your launch characters that you really want to look out for: Gojo, Nobara. If they come out not too long after launch, you got Yuta and you got Geto. The good thing about this game is that you really don't have to reroll very much, right? Like, rerolling is a very minimal thing because you get all of those tickets that allow you to just redraw forever. So you really don't have to, like, sit there and grind and fight forever to get the character that you want. Like, rerolling is really not a big deal. So just do whatever you want to do when it comes to those redrawable tickets. Now, I do want to look at memories as well, because there is a couple really standout ones that are important. So if you're going to reroll, you could feasibly reroll for these, right? So there's only a couple that I'm going to highlight because I think that they're a very, very big deal. There are other good ones. You know, several of them are like healing abilities or damage buffs. First one is this one here, the non-standard. Everyone just calls it Hollow Purple, but it's called like non-standard or whatever it is Toto calls Gojo. And what it does is it increases Jujutsu damage by 80% for one turn. So you would use this on the turn that Gojo is going to use his ultimate, which would buff that damage by a ton, right? Look at that big 80% buff. So this is one of the best equips in the game, and a lot of the good attackers throughout at least the first year of the game's lifespan are Jujutsu related. Even when Gojo is inevitably upended by his better versions that come out later, like Hollow Purple Gojo, this remains one of the better equips for them. So that's a decent one to reroll for. Another one that's pretty good to reroll for is this Unity from top to bottom right here. What this does is it increases the charge rate of your allies' ultimates. So you would put this on a support character. You would have that support character pop this right at the beginning of the match. So like right away. That way your characters charge their ultimates faster and you can ult sooner. So like we talked about not needing tanks, right? Like not really needing to tank stuff. If you have this and you have two characters with high-powered ults like Nobara, like Gojo, like Yuta, they can just burn through people really, really fast. So this is a really good one to have on hand. I don't know what pre or post adjustment does. I guess it got changed. I don't know. But either way, increase that ultimate skill charge rate is really good. Something that you're going to want to keep on. Oh my god. Something that you're going to keep on hand. There we go. Now there's this one here. This is the Jogo domain one. And when a command, skill, or ultimate is activated, so whenever you use it, right, it's going to increase your Jujutsu damage by 55% over 8 turns or 2 times, right? So what that means is when you use a Jujutsu attack, it ticks down one of those times. So it takes it away, and then you have 1 time remaining. If you use 2 Jujutsu attacks, then it will be done. The buff will go away. And this will only apply to the person who's using it. So whoever's got it equipped will have that happen to them. Now, the difference here is that this is for 1 turn or 1 time. So 1 usage. So you're going to do this immediately. You're going to ult with it every time, and it's going to do a big damage buff. What this is going to do is you're going to use it, and then it's going to give you those 2 stacks that aren't expended by attacks that are not Jujutsu based, because it doesn't have a turn counter on it, right? Or it has it's an 8 turn counter, so you have a long time. But if you notice, it has an 8-turn counter, but this cooldown is 5 turns. So you're actually able to use it twice within the turn limit. So what you would do is use it as soon as you have it, so like right at the beginning. And then later on, you can use it again. And you might be thinking, well, hang on now. How are you supposed to do that? Because it goes away after you use it 2 times. So if you activate it and then you do 2 Jujutsu attacks before you get your ultimate, the buff is going to be gone. That's true. But what you can do is a little trick with our favorite friend Gojo here. There you are. Is his attack, he has 1 Jujutsu attack, and he has 1 Taijutsu or melee attack. So you can use that buff, the Jogo domain, and then you can only attack with the physical attack, which is not a Jujutsu attack, so it does not count as a usage. Then you can save the Jogo buff that's stocked. Then when Jogo comes up again, you can then use it a second time to double stack because you haven't been using Jujutsu damage, right? You're not going to use this. You're going to use this one. So you haven't used any Jujutsu attacks. It has not ticked down the Jogo buff at all. And then you use it a second time, so it double stacks on itself for a higher bonus than the Hollow Purple one gives you. So the Jogo one is actually the better one overall in terms of the multiplier that you're getting off of it. However, this is a free-to-play one, so this one is free, but to get it, you have to defeat a pretty difficult boss. So you have to fight Jogo in his domain. It's the only boss at the time that I was still playing that used the domain expansion, which means that he can hit Gojo. He does a lot of damage. He takes a lot of turns. He hits pretty hard. He is beatable. Like, he's not like an unstoppable god or anything, but he is a fight that you're not going to be able to get through right away. And so having the ones that we talked about here, like the non-standard and the, whatever this is, Unity from top to bottom, having those two makes a big difference in beating that fight to begin with. And then, you know, let's say you have this one and you use it to get the Jogo memory, right? Well, then you can just slap this on Gojo, take this off of Gojo, and put it on either Yuta or Nobara, whoever you're using at that point in time. A lot of these are decent. I'm not going to go through every single one. That's pretty good. I mean, there's a ton, as you can see. These aren't all in the game at launch, but there are a lot of them that are in the game at launch. So I'm not going to go through every single one. These two are your biggest damaging ones. This one is an amazing support one. And that's really just what I wanted to talk about right now, just for some important beginner stuff. In the next video, which is going to come out sometime tomorrow, we're going to be talking about units other than Gojo that are really, really good. So on November 5th, we're going to be talking about other units to look forward to. There are good SR characters and good R characters that you're going to be making use of as you play this game. So we're going to be talking about that. And then the day after that, we'll be going over Gojo a little bit more in depth, what he does, what he brings to the account, you know, why you want to have him so badly. We're going to talk about him fully. And then after the Gojo video, it will be global release. And maybe we'll have either a little release stream or a release video. I don't know which one, to be entirely honest with you. But either way, I hope you guys are as excited as I am for Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. I'm really looking forward to the global version. I really adored the Japanese version. I wish that VPN was not such a headache. If it wasn't, I would probably still be playing. But either way, game is really fun. The pity system is really bad, but we can always bypass that with knowing what's going to come in advance from the Japanese version. So stay tuned. Stick with me. I'll make sure you get what you need when you need it. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Good night.